Egypt's new cabinet has quickly gotten down to business. The interim government is still reaching out to the Muslim Brotherhood, seeking reconciliation following the ouster of former President Mohamed Morsi. But the Brotherhood insists there'll be no talks. CCTV's Adel Marouki reports.
Transition will not be stalled. That's the message from interim President Adli Mansour, who formed a cabinet despite a boycott by the Muslim Brotherhood, which instead is demanding the reinstatement of ousted leader Mohamed Morsi.
They were offered participation. Why did they reject it? They think they can force their will on the Egyptian people. The people made their choice on June the 30th, and they want a future without the Brotherhood.
Judge Amin al-Mahdi has been named Minister of National Reconciliation to placate any claims that the cabinet is biased against the Brotherhood. But there seems to be no change from their side.
Hypothetically, if we accepted early presidential elections after 3 months, we could go out and reject the president. So if we let go of our rights, democracy will never rise. That is why the only way for reconciliation is the return of Morsi to his office and referring to legislative elections.
The Brotherhood thinks they have the upper hand.
Cairo was paralyzed with our protest, and it could be paralyzed every day. This is a proof that the regime cannot control the country, and regardless to the opposition of the Apache helicopters, they cannot control the people. We decided to bring back our democratic regime.
Some analysts, though, predict some in the Brotherhood will eventually want to talk.
It is very dangerous to marginalize the Brotherhood. I admire the official approach to them, offering them positions. I think eventually this will happen. The old leaders of the Brotherhood will hold their boycott position, but the pragmatic members will realize that they can easily get their 20 or 25% share of the next parliament seats. If they boycott transition, this will go away.
It's been more than 2 weeks now since Morsi was ousted. His supporters welcomed the new cabinet with protests and promised to continue until he is back in power. The polarization is getting deeper. Liberal powers who long boycotted talks with the government of Mohamed Morsi are now criticizing the Brotherhood for taking a similar approach. More instability seems inevitable. Adel Mahroui, CCTV, Cairo.
Now, supporters of Egypt's new regime have welcomed the swearing-in of the new cabinet. Those who support ousted President Morsi have criticized the move, with the Muslim Brotherhood already branding the caretaker cabinet illegitimate. CCTV's Yasser Hakim reports.
Prime Minister Hazem al-Biblawi has assembled 35 ministers and 3 deputy prime ministers. They'll oversee the roadmap laid out by interim President Adli Mansour following the ouster of Mohamed Morsi earlier this month.
The Prime Minister chose a predominantly technocrat government to avoid any particular political wranglings. But most of the cabinet is from the liberals, with no Islamists. They refused to join. Biblawi opted to keep 5 ministers from the Morsi government and 6 from the one before Morsi.
Apart from organizing upcoming parliamentary and presidential elections, the government has a tough mission on its hand. The Muslim Brotherhood had dismissed the new government and is calling for more protests to demand Morsi's reinstatement.
Retaining security is crucial, and a new ministry has been established for this particular purpose. It's called the Ministry of National Reconciliation. This is in order to reach out to the Muslim Brotherhood and Morsi supporters. Tackling the economic crisis is also a priority.
But can the government handle the heavy responsibility in its 6 to 7 month lifespan?
I think it can. It's all technocrats and they don't have personal political agendas. There is a change.
Most of the ministers we've seen before. There are not enough new names. They failed before and they will fail again.
Whether they accept or reject the choices, Egyptians just hope that the interim government can succeed in what its predecessors have failed, unifying Egyptians. The swearing-in of the interim cabinet marks a new chapter for Egypt as it enters a second transitional period, aiming to learn from the mistakes of the first. Yasser Hakim for CCTV, Cairo.
Meanwhile, the African Union says it's prepared to help Egypt's interim government and wants to engage interim President Adli Mansour. The AU suspended Egypt's membership in the last 2 weeks, but it will now send a high-level delegation to Cairo in coming days. The delegation includes Mali's former president, Alpha Omar Konaré, former Botswana leader Festus Mogae, and Djibouti's president, Ismail Omar. Let's now cross to Cairo, where CCTV's Yasser Hakim is standing by with the latest. Good evening, Yasser. Now, looking at the cabinet beginning its work, and as we've seen there too, a very mixed reaction. Is it likely that it's able to move forward with the transition? What's the latest there?
Well, if you're talking about mixed reaction, yes, there are people who support the formation of this cabinet, saying it's including a lot of experienced professionals, technocrats, non-politicians who will be able to take Egypt through the transitional period. But the criticizers, they say it's mainly no young people there. The average age is over 65. When the revolution is done by youth and Egypt needs youth to go forward. Others are said, Islamists are completely rejecting this cabinet, especially the Muslim Brotherhood, who said they will not take part, and the Salafists, the only Islamist power now, in political force now, and they said they will not take part in the cabinet. But there's a lot of optimism, if you can say, from the people surrounding the cabinet and from politicians and experts, saying at least it's a much better formation than the previous governments in the last 2 years.
Now, yeah, so this is a question that comes up time and time again. We still have the Muslim Brotherhood and its affiliates defiant. They want nothing to do with this new government. So is it likely that the government can move forward with the transition? I mean, especially as we see the Muslim Brotherhood and its supporters still involved in protests that still continue to be violent.
It's the question everyone is asking here in Egypt, and even today, with the first day for the new government, the Muslim Brotherhood marched onto the government headquarters to show their rejection and to demonstrate in front of the headquarters, and there were minor clashes, not major, but minor clashes in front of the government headquarters. Even Catherine Ashton had to take at least 2 hours to reach to the destination, and it had to cancel some of her meetings today because of these demonstrations in front of the government headquarters. The government said that it has established a new ministry called the Ministry of National Reconciliation. It's kind of a message to the Muslim Brotherhood. There's still open arms for the Muslim Brotherhood to take in the new political order and to take part in the new shape of Egypt. But the Muslim Brotherhood so far is defying this. It's saying that it will not agree to any reconciliation unless Mohamed Morsi is back in power. So how to deal with this, with the Muslim Brotherhood in the streets, is a question everyone is asking, even experts. Will the army deal with the Muslim Brotherhood or the government deal with them? Will they be dealt in a security manner or in a political manner? There are talks of negotiations behind the scenes between the less dramatic or less extremist members of the Muslim Brotherhood with the government officials, but all behind the scenes. What will it take to get them back into the political form is not yet clear. Until now, they're still in the streets, and the government will find problems to solve Egypt's economic issues, their political issues, and the transitional period in the next few weeks.
Certainly a tough road ahead. Yasser Hakim, thanks very much. We'll leave it there for the moment. It's Yasser Hakim live in Cairo. Well, it's time now for a quick break. When we come back, deadly clashes. DR Congo army battles M23 rebels.
Happy birthday, and thank you for all the good times, for all the advice, and for the special moments that we were able to share together.
And South Africa prepares for Nelson Mandela's 95th birthday.
Nelson Mandela.
I cherish the ideal of a new South Africa, His words and actions have transformed the lives of millions. Nelson Mandela is so many things to so many people. And this Thursday, on Nelson Mandela's 95th birthday, the world has a chance to come together to celebrate a truly extraordinary life. CCTV will bring you Mandela Day as it unfolds from our correspondents across South Africa, the African continent, and from around the globe. Mandela Day is a day to pay tribute to a true hero. You can get the whole story right here on CCTV.
Welcome back to Africa Live. Now, fighting has continued Tuesday between the Congolese army and M23 rebels in the volatile eastern part of the country. This comes a day after at least 130 people were killed in the deadliest clashes in months. CCTV's Trevor Ombija has more details.
Fighting broke out just outside Goma, the capital of mineral-rich North Kivu, on Sunday. Loud blasts rang out north of the flashpoint city, forcing around 1,000 people to flee the area. Both sides accused the other of starting the clashes. The military intervention came on Monday, much to the relief of Kanyaruchinya village residents.
I am very happy to see our troops in Kararuchinya. We didn't think we would get here, and now we are very happy and think we can get to Kimbumba. We're here to support the army for the work they've done. We're happy for Mamadou, that's why we're here. He has asked us to let MONUSCO through so they can bring help.
The United Nations says its troops are on high alert and ready to intervene in case of an attack. Goma, which was occupied by M23 rebels for 10 days late last year before withdrawing under international pressure, lies in a region rich in minerals including gold and coltan, a key component in cell phones and other electronic equipment. Peace talks between the two sides in Uganda have since stalled. Meanwhile, aid agencies say more than 70,000 Congolese refugees have now fled into Uganda following separate clashes in eastern DR Congo near the border on Thursday. Trevor Ombija, CCTV.
Now, for an analysis on the situation in the eastern DR Congo, we're joined in studio by Mr. Thierry Vicolon. He's the director of the Central Africa Project. Welcome to Africa Live.
Thank you.
Now, looking at the latest that's come out from the eastern DR Congo, what is it that your organization has heard?
Well, I was in Goma actually last week, and already there was preparation for the fighting. The fighting has started on Sunday, and now it's clear that the Congolese army has managed to push back the front line, which was just at the north of Goma, a few kilometers north of Goma. And so far we can say that this is a victory for the Congolese army over the M23 rebellion. They pushed them back a few kilometers away from Goma.
Now, looking at the UN brigade that's to come in, made up from troops from Malawi, from South Africa, are there concerns that this could escalate the conflict?
Yes, definitely. Actually, the issue right now is whether Rwanda will provide military support to the M23 rebellion or not. And of course, this could bring Rwanda into a collision course with the Congolese army, but also with the UN forces. Rwanda recently accused the Congolese army to cooperate with the FDLR, which is an armed group related to, involved in the genocide in 1994. But, and this is very unusual, Kigali also accused some UN commanders in Congo to held meetings with the FDLR. So this is of course a very serious accusation against the UN, who are supposed to be neutral.
Now, looking at some of the concerns around them, the main mission for this UN brigade is to crush essentially this M23 rebellion. And normally, often what we've seen is once a rebellion is possibly crushed or disintegrated, we have different parts spring up elsewhere. Is that likely in this situation?
Well, actually, the mandate of this brigade is not only to crush the M23, it's to crush all the armed groups in the Kivus. And in North Kivu alone, there are about 20 armed groups. So this is definitely a huge task. The other problem is that the armed groups actually are not a cause, they are a symptom of what is going wrong in the region. And it's not only a military response that is necessary. The armed groups are a symptom of massive poverty and a lack of state services. So this has to be addressed also. It's pretty clear that at this stage the main target of the brigade may be the M23, but there are plenty of other local armed groups in the Kivus, and the issue of underdevelopment, poverty and lack of state authorities goes far beyond the mandate of the UN brigade, of course.
Now, as you mentioned, that this is a very complex dilemma. You've got issues around poverty. You've also got talks being abandoned in Uganda, fights resuming in the eastern DR Congo, as well as refugees fleeing the country. So how likely is it that we see some sort of resolution being reached or some advancement in terms of resolving this issue?
Well, this is basically a 20 years long conflict, so there is no magic solution for that. Actually, what is necessary is to improve governance, to stimulate the economy, and to restore state authority. But not only in Congo, in the whole region of the Great Lakes. And that's why it's very complicated. There is now a new UN initiative that is called the Framework for Peace that intends actually to do that. And that framework was signed in February in Addis Ababa by 11 states, and several regional organizations are part of it. But it's pretty clear already that coordination is going to be a challenge because of the number of players that are involved in that framework for peace.
Right, we'll have to leave it there for the time being. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. We're speaking there to Mr. Thierry Vicolone. He's the director of the Central African Project. It's time now for another quick break. When we come back.
Happy birthday, and thank you for all the good times, for all the advice, and for the special moments that we were able to share together. I'll never forget them.
South Africa prepares for Nelson Mandela's 95th birthday.
Nelson Mandela.
Now, Thursday will see celebrations around the world for a very special birthday, that of South Africa's former leader and anti-apartheid hero Nelson Mandela. He turns 95 years old. But the 18th of July also marks the now 4th International Nelson Mandela Day, a day where people across the globe are asked to dedicate 67 minutes of their time to helping others in honor of Mandela's 67 years dedicated to human rights and social justice. Celebrations this year are all the more poignant as Madiba spends his 5th week in hospital for a serious lung infection. Our correspondents will be bringing us all the latest on those festivities. Now, to kick us off, we're joined by our correspondent Guy Henderson. He's live in South Africa's capital, Pretoria. Guy, we believe there's been an update with regard to Mr. Mandela's condition. What have you heard?
Yes, well, I can only just about hear you. It's been quite quiet here for the last 39 days or so, for the last 2 weeks or so of the 39 days that Nelson Mandela has spent in this Pretoria hospital. But this evening, the eve of his 95th birthday, the mood here is quite celebratory, but that's because we've had some rather good news and some good news that has been very rare over this worried few weeks for the South African public. Zinzi Mandela, one of Nelson Mandela's granddaughters, has given a television interview in which she has said that her grandfather is making dramatic progress. She said, she even explained that he was now sitting up in bed and watching television with earphones on, that he was able to communicate and that he was smiling into the room. So really very, very good news that we're hearing, not of course something that many people were expecting, particularly a couple of weeks ago when it did seem as though the man may have been hanging on to life by a thread. But now, from what Zinzi Mandela has said, it does appear that his progress has been dramatic, as she says, and that he may even be able to hear the celebrations and songs that we've been able to hear behind me.
Guys, certainly reason for celebration. Now, what's in the pipeline across the country to honour and celebrate Mr. Mandela's birthday tomorrow?
Well, it's obviously going to be a particularly significant event this year, given the fact that he's been so ill and remains, according to the official statement from the presidency, in a critical but stable condition. There will, of course, be a series of big events. The ANC, the African National Congress, has just given its full itinerary for tomorrow, so there's going to be all sorts of good deeds by high-level officials. President Jacob Zuma will be out and about in Pretoria. The Deputy President will have his own schedule. The United Nations General Assembly is to hold a special session at its headquarters in New York, because remember, this is International Mandela Day, as officially recognised by the United Nations. So Nelson Mandela is the only man, the only individual to have his own to be officially recognised and have his own official United Nations Day. And there'll be world leaders. I think you've now lost visual here, but I'll continue. His old prison mate, Andrew.
Just losing visuals slightly there on Guy Henderson, but thanks very much for that update. Now, Mandela Day campaign started 4 years ago, and it's now a firm fixture in South Africa. Thousands take time out to devote 67 minutes of service for the good of others. CCTV Sumitra Naidu is among them.
I'm in Orange Farm today. It's a township that's just about 60 k's outside the Johannesburg CBD. As part of my contribution to Mandela Day, I have joined my friends and family in helping this house of safety.
It's not enough because the food are very expensive, the clothes, and to maintain the children and the house, and the money is not enough. I'm very happy, especially for this day, for Mandela Day, especially it's a Mandela month. I'd like to thank all the people that are coming here to support Tato Kimatla, and Tato Kimatla was struggling for a lot, but since the people are here to help me, I'm very happy. I don't know what to say, and I want you to I'm welcoming you, everybody, and then you must keep on coming here to help the children.
Disebo has been running this home for 6 years now. She depends entirely on donations. She gets no government funding, except for a social grant of 290 Rand per child per month. It's days like these on Mandela Day that Disebo is so grateful because she gets extra support during this time. Sumitra Naidu, CCTV, Orange Farm, Johannesburg.
Organisers are hoping people around the world will on Thursday follow Nelson Mandela's example. In South Africa, sports stars, celebrities and politicians are among those lining up to do their 67 minutes of good. If you're looking for some inspiration, CCTV's Renee Delcam caught up with one of the more adventurous exploits.
This year, the bikers for Nelson Mandela set their wheels in motion to raise awareness about violence against women and children. They travelled over 1,000 kilometres, donating time and money to destitute survivors of abuse. Their final stop in South Africa was this home for young girls in Midrand, Johannesburg. The bikers immediately got stuck into painting the house, which provides much-needed shelter for abused children. They each spent 67 minutes of their time at the home, symbolising Nelson Mandela's 67 years of sacrifice. And they were joined by some of Mandela's children and grandchildren.
Tata's receiving an incredible amount of love and support and positive energy. And it's interesting to see how all of that is actually impacting on the 67 Minutes projects. I mean, like, people are doing the most amazing and generous things. Tata's always said that there's no keener revelation of a society than the way that it treats its children. And it makes it that much more special to be here to keep that part of his legacy alive.
Wow, I think doing this for Madiba, doing what he lived, what he believed, I think is the greatest thing you could ever do in his name.
You know, there's been such an outpour of love from people all over the world for Madiba because he's been in hospital for quite some time. And that makes it more important for me as well, as an individual, as an outsider really, to pay tribute to him and pay a special tribute to him during this trip. So I think we've done well. We are at our third project today, and we've done what we wanted to. We've achieved what we wanted to achieve.
This was the fourth time that the bikers for Nelson Mandela travelled across South Africa and beyond to honour his legacy. And in the words of one of Nelson Mandela's grandchildren, this journey is far from over, with millions of people across the world promising to go the extra mile for Madiba. Renat Al-Kham, CCTV, Midrand.
As festivities get underway, Nelson Mandela is expected to spend his birthday in hospital despite that improvement we've heard about with his entire family. Ahead of the big day, some of his nearest and dearest shared with CCTV their wishes for Madiba.
Happy birthday to my papa, first to the human being that he is, and happy birthday to this wonderful and unique man that South Africa has had the privilege to give birth to give the opportunity to grow and contribute to the country and to the universe.
Happy birthday, Madiba. I wish you good health and lots of love, and remember that the entire world loves you.
Our birthday is like the usual family lunch where we get together. The most difficult part is always trying to figure out what to give him as a gift. But what we've been doing over the past few years is where we get a whole collage, a huge collage of family pictures and so on, because he loves, those captured memories.
Well, he's been like a father for me. I mean, I literally lived with him for a few years. So happy birthday, and thank you for all the good times, for all the advice, and for the special moments that we were able to share together. I'll never forget them, and I'll always treasure them.
It's very touching to know that he didn't sacrifice in vain. He didn't make sacrifices in vain, that people continue to celebrate him and people are going all out to uphold his legacy and his values.
Granddad, happy birthday. I love you very much, and I will see you on Thursday.